For 6 weeks, a massive fight broke out between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard in a court of law. The battle was over the statements that Amber Heard made in a Washington Post op-ed that accused him, without naming him, of AB and other things. The trial was long, heated, and many wondered how it would end. But in the end, it was the jury's decision that Johnny Depp was indeed defamed, and as a result, should be awarded over $10 million to be paid by Amber Heard. Since then, a lot of people have wondered what both sides would do post-trial, and now we have some indication of that. We'll break it down for you, but before we do that, go ahead and do us a favor by leaving a like on the video, subscribing to the channel, and hitting the bell icon so you never miss an upload from us. And with that being said, let's get straight into the video. Johnny's words post-trial.
I think just an overwhelming sense of relief. I was speaking with another friend of ours, a mutual friend of Johnny's and ours, and he said, I haven't seen Johnny smile like that in 6 years.
The weight of the world is off of his shoulders. He's got his life back.
As you well know, the law does not favor a plaintiff like Johnny Depp in a defamation case like this. The burden is very high, the threshold is high, and he crossed it. Frankly speaking, were you stunned at this victory? Ben?
Well, we had ultimate confidence in Johnny and the jury and the facts of this case, and you can only hope that the jury will see it. And in this case, they did, and the verdict was overwhelmingly in his favor.
Let's start with Johnny Depp. After all, he did win the trial, and he's been very happy about the verdict, according to all who were close to him when it came out. In a statement on the day of the verdict, Depp celebrated his victory in his defamation lawsuit against Heard. 6 years ago, my life, the life of my children, the lives of those closest to me, and also the lives of the people who for many, many years have supported and believed in me were forever changed, all in the blink of an eye. False, very serious and criminal allegations were levied at me via the media, which triggered an endless barrage of hateful content. Although no charges were ever brought against me, it had already traveled around the world twice within a nanosecond, and it had a seismic impact on my life and my career. And 6 years later, the jury gave me my life back. I am truly humbled. My decision to pursue this case, knowing very well the height of the legal hurdles that I would be facing and the inevitable worldwide spectacle into my life, was only made after considerable thought. From the very beginning, the goal of bringing this case was to reveal the truth, regardless of the outcome. Speaking the truth was something that I owed to my children and to all those who have remained steadfast in their support of me. I feel at peace knowing I have finally accomplished that. I am and have been overwhelmed by the outpouring of love and colossal support and kindness from around the world. I hope that my quest to have the truth be told will have helped others, men or women, who have found themselves in my situation, and that those supporting them never give up. I also hope that the position will now return to innocent until proven guilty, both within the courts and in the media. I wish to acknowledge the noble work of the judge, the jurors, the court staff, and the sheriffs who have sacrificed their own time to get to this point, and to my diligent and unwavering legal team who did an extraordinary job in helping me to share the truth. The best is yet to come, and a new chapter has finally begun. Veritas nunc perit, truth never perishes.
I should mention the jury did find Mr. Depp responsible for defamation for one of the statements made by his lawyer. It accused her essentially of staging a scene in furtherance of an abuse hoax. How do you square that finding with the rest of the verdict, Camille?
I think it's just the verdict is overwhelmingly positive for Johnny, and it was unanimous. There were 7 people that decided he was defamed.
Amber Heard's attorney was right here the day after the verdict, and she said the jury had not been permitted to see certain evidence that would have bolstered and verified Amber Heard's claims of abuse, in particular therapist notes. What is your response to that? And was there evidence that was suppressed for a valid legal reason that might have made a difference?
I think that was very disappointing to hear that and to hear her impugn the character of the jury, and the evidence came in that should come in, and the judge was very fair to both sides.
Later on, he went on to thank his fans with a video showing their support of him throughout the trial, and again reaffirmed that his goal was to move forward with his life, which of course raises the obvious question of, how does he plan to do that? Number 4, new tour. The 59-year-old actor has announced an overseas tour with the Hollywood Vampires, the rock supergroup Depp formed with Joe Perry and Alice Cooper in 2012. Musician Tommy Henriksen is joining too. It's the latest venture for Depp, who feels he's gotten his life back after 6 years. This might surprise some of you, given that many felt that Johnny Depp would go right back to doing movies and or TV shows, given that the stain on him has been at least partially lifted thanks to the verdict.
In particular, she cites the UK judgment. As we all know, Johnny Depp sued The Sun, a newspaper in the United Kingdom. He lost that case, the judge finding that claims by the newspaper that he was a wife beater were substantially true. Now, Amber Heard's lawyers say that judgment should have come into this court case. What say you?
Was a different process, right? And also, Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard in this case were the parties. They had different disclosure obligations. So we disagree. The overwhelming evidence that was presented in this case in Virginia far exceeded what was presented in the UK, and we believe the jury got it right.
Remember, Hollywood as a whole basically blackballed him due to the allegations by Heard, which were never proven, but were statements by her in the op-ed and in other places. Disney and Warner Brothers were the two that really did that to Johnny Depp via his loss of roles in the Fantastic Beasts and Pirates franchise. And yet this might actually be a better path for Johnny Depp, because this way he's only answering to himself and his bandmates and performing for crowds who clearly adore him. That's not to say he won't go back to acting even in a part-time capacity. The catch is also that it's Hollywood who has to open their doors back to Depp, and that's not a guarantee even with the verdict. So doing music right now and basically reveling in the aftermath of the trial that he won is probably best. Number 3, Amber's words post-trial.
It's been about more than a week since the verdict. As you sit here with me now, has it sunk in?
How could it? It's surreal and difficult. In part, yes. This has been a long time coming.
Do you stand by your testimony and your accusations against Johnny Depp about abuse?
Of course, to my dying day, will stand by every word of my testimony. I think vast majority of this trial was played out on social media. I think that this trial is an example of that gone haywire, gone amok, and the jury is not immune to that.
What Amber Heard had to say post-trial was obviously very different from Johnny Depp due to her coming out on the wrong end of things. The disappointment I feel today is beyond words. I'm heartbroken that the mountain of evidence still was not enough to stand up to the disproportionate power, influence, and sway of my ex-husband. I'm even more disappointed with this verdict. I'm even more disappointed with what this verdict means for other women. It's a setback. It sets back the clock to a time when women who spoke up and spoke out could be publicly shamed and humiliated. It sets back the idea that violence against women is to be taken seriously. I believe Johnny's attorney succeeded in getting the jury to overlook the key issue of freedom of speech and ignore evidence that was so conclusive that we won in the UK. I'm sad I lost this case, but I'm sadder still that I seem to have lost a right I thought I had as an American to speak freely and openly.
You think the jury saw it?
How could they not? I think even the most well-intentioned juror, it would have been impossible to avoid this. Every single day I passed for 3, 4, sometimes 6 blocks, city blocks lined with people holding signs saying, "Burn the witch," "Death to Amber." After 3.5 weeks, I took the stand and saw just a courtroom packed full of Captain Jack Sparrow fans.
She later went on and did an interview with NBC News where she tried to reinforce the belief of her and her lawyer team that the court was rigged against her by the jury, the judge, Depp's lawyers, and social media, even stating at one point that all of Johnny Depp's exes were afraid to come forward due to how she was being treated. Things haven't gotten easier for her either, so what is she gonna do next? Number 2, tell-all book. During a chat with OK Magazine, an insider revealed that while the actress thinks her career is over, things might go a different path in her mind if she makes a tell-all book about the case. Amber considers her career in Hollywood over. She's already in talks and is excited about writing a tell-all book. At this point, she has nothing to lose and wants to tell all. Meanwhile, a New York divorce lawyer, Dror Bickle, warned that Johnny Depp's lawyers will be reading and reviewing everything.
Who were vocal, energized.
Can you put into words how that felt?
This was the most humiliating and horrible thing I've ever been through. I have never felt more removed from my own humanity. I felt less than human.
Therefore, the actress shouldn't cross the line. Depp and his attorneys will be reading and listening to everything that Heard states. If she crosses the line, which is likely, there is no question that we'll be hit with another defamation suit and end up right back in court, said Dror Bickle. The tell-all book is interesting for various reasons, because as we noted, she did a tell-all interview on NBC to try and make her side of the case more clear outside of a court setting. The problem? Not only did it bomb rating-wise, but not long after the interview, a juror from the case refuted just about everything she said about how the case was rigged against her. Now yes, she can go and tell everything she thinks she can in this tell-all book, but that doesn't mean people will believe her, nor does it mean that they'll blast Johnny for what she alleges he did to her. In fact, some might take it as a case of a bitter woman trying to lash out.
Let's go back to the day of the verdict. Were you feeling confident?
That's a great question. I wish I could say yes to that. I want to say yes to you, but it wouldn't be true. Even if you think that I'm lying, you still couldn't look me in the eye and tell me that you think on social media there's been a fair representation. There was another trial, dealt with the same substantive issues that had even more evidence in. In fact, my evidence was largely kept out. Really important pieces of evidence kept out. Done differently, handled differently by a judge instead of a jury.
Another source said that Heard was trying to have a positive outlook and take a breather from everything, but this would seem to counteract that, especially given that an appeal filing by her team is more than likely at this point. Number 1. Different paths again. Not surprisingly, just like in the court case or just like in the very lives of the people we're talking about here, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard are taking very different paths in how they approach their future. And we wouldn't be surprised if more branching happens given all that could happen with the potential appeal, the payout of money, and so on. Many would like this case to be over, but it's clear that we're not across the finish line just yet. And there you have it, everyone, a look at the potential futures for both Johnny Depp and Amber Heard now that the defamation trial is over. Do you think that these are the best moves for the two given all that has happened and all that was made public? Do you think the appeal will be granted and thus will start over again? Or will it be denied and everything will simply stop?